So I wanted to address just some of the millions of videos on YouTube, on social media, where men are sounding off and releasing frustration about women and how dissatisfied they are with women, particularly women in the West, American women, even more specifically, and their desire to go elsewhere, out of the country to find a suitable wife and things like that. To be honest, I feel like if I were a man in the West, I think I would feel the same way. Just want to throw that out there. So, in my opinion, I believe that this battle of the sexes in America, and in that I'm speaking on heterosexual women and heterosexual men, that the core of the problem revolves around the abundance of atheism, the abundance of no faith, lack of faith, weak faith, doubtful faith, selective faith. In the West, men have grown away from the idea, very, very far away from the idea of God and consequences for sins and things like that. But I think that a lot of men can admit that when they were younger, that, society kind of encouraged guys to not be attracted to the virgin girl, not be interested in the girl that can't stay out late or can't go out on the weekends, or in order for her to go out, you have to meet her parents, you have to talk to her father. So, young men transitioned from respecting girls who respected themselves to kind of seeing those girls as lame, passing those girls over, making fun of them, completely ignoring them even. And beyond that, again, society began to make fun of the woman that didn't have a education, look down on stay-at-home moms. Stay-at-home mom is lazy. Stay-at-home mom is useless, worthless, and men were treating stay-at-home moms like they were useless and worthless. You give young men somewhat of a pass for that. It's kind of the nature of the beast. Hormones raging between 15 and 25. You want to do what you want to do, and the easier access female that is going to allow you to do that, a lot of guys are going to jump on that. So, but when you're not in a state of wanting to submit to God and have a sense of self-respect as a man, things can get out of hand. And as society changes and encourages, and television becomes a focal point of almost every American's life, and music and things that just influence you, pornography more and more accessible, who are not constantly advertising themselves and throwing themselves at you and ready at your whim to satisfy you. A woman that's not doing that for a good majority of a man's youth, these women are not even on his radar. And so the problem comes in when men have this idea that it's okay to live that way, and then feel entitled to a woman that is pure when he's ready to settle down. The thing is, you kind of always end up getting what you deserve. You're getting what you asked for. You're getting back what you put out, right? Some people call it karma, whatever. Ultimately, your behavior is going to dictate how you are treated in your life. All right? You can say it's the law of attraction. You can say whatever you want to say. But if you are running the streets, if you are having sex with multiple women, making children, just discarding women like pistachio shell, you deserve what you get. You deserve the women that are in the gutter with you. These are your counterparts. These are your partners. This is your match. These women are a mirror of you. There's no way that you can honestly believe that living a lifestyle of a playboy or someone that's just completely indiscriminate with his body, entertaining just the lowest of the low when it comes to virtue of a woman. There's no way that you believe that you deserve some man's daughter and she's a virgin. There's no way you corrupt her and pollute her mind and pollute her body and all that because now you want to because you want more than what you are worthy of. You want more than what you deserve. But God gives you what you deserve. It's not about running to another country to get a foreign girl because the American girls are not submissive enough. You have to deserve what you want. You have to change yourself first. It's not about finding someone else. Okay? The men and the women in the West need to do a lot of self-reflection, exercise accountability and take responsibility for their own circumstances and their own situations and not just blame the other side. So a lot of these guys online that are, kind of obsessed with some of the gurus that are really encouraging men to be masculine and take back control of their lives and choose better women and better mothers for their children. I applaud these guys. I like them also. But some of the men that are watching and taking on the attitude are not really taking the steps to change themselves. They're just, they're bitter, they're angry, they're jaded, they are abused, and they've been drugged by women in some circumstances, either through the court system or just whatever, through her lies and things like that. But a lot of them are, their anger is valid, just recreating videos, making fun of women and trapping women to prove that she's a gold digger and humiliating women that cheated and just, as if most of these women are humiliating themselves enough, first of all. But the men that are just, obsessed with exposing them and making fun of them, you're projecting. A lot of you guys are projecting because you're angry and you're hurt. And, you definitely need therapy and you need to work through that. And you need to look in the mirror. You need to ask yourself, if I've been surrounded by women that don't deserve for me to treat them well, you have to ask yourself, why? Why are you around women that don't deserve for you to treat them well? Why do you draw that type of woman to you? Purposely put yourself around women that are questionable, not any good, and then you just spend a lifetime making fun of them and embarrassing them and hurting them and things like that. Like, you're wasting your time. What are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Remove yourself from the environment that you put yourself in. Remove yourself from the venues that you attend. And, aspire to be with women who have dignity and self-respect. Start by having dignity and self-respect for yourself. Because then those types of women will be drawn to you. You'd be surprised how much is out there that align with your goal. It's out there. We really can't forget that women were kind of duped by the whole feminism movement, and it's really showing. But a lot of those women were reaching. They were going too far. There were issues that were legitimate, such as women not being treated well, not being appreciated, not being respected because they were stay-at-home moms, because they didn't have education, because they depended on their husbands financially. There were a lot of men that took advantage of that and treated women very badly, killed them, raped them, abused them in front of their children. This is something that we can't forget and pretend didn't happen. If you talk to your grandmother or great-grandmother, they can tell you some stories of good women that were treated very badly because of that a woman is something that you can just grab by the hair and sling back and forth and tell her to shut up. I've developed into a thing where the woman that stays home and obeys her man is dumb. She's stupid. She's wasting her life. Now, I know that's not true, and many of you know that's not true. Those women that experienced that or saw other women that experienced that type of disrespect in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they encourage their daughters to not do that. They encourage their daughters to not get married early. They encourage their daughters to get an education and be self-sufficient and independent and things like that. And so there should have been a sweet spot where women were not treated less than, but also staying in their lane. And instead of that, the whole train just derailed, or whatever. I'm mixing analogies up, but anyway. So things have gotten out of hand. But this is a monster that men partly created. We praise our grandmothers and our mothers, great grandmothers and our aunties that we hear stories about, that she stayed with her husband even though he did this and this and this and this, and he hit her in the head with a glass bottle, and he made babies on the side, and she stayed with him. She was so strong. And so a lot of men praise the idea of that woman, but you're not thinking of the reality of that grandmother that you are praising and shaming women now that weren't like her. And again, I agree. A good majority of that, I agree. But some of those grandmothers went to their grave sad women. Some of those grandmothers went to their grave with regret. Some of those women went to their grave feeling worthless, and because they died unfulfilled and did not feel like that their life was worthwhile, because they submitted to the wrong man. And so, not that you shouldn't submit, but women do have to be careful. Women should be choosy. I think nowadays it's dangerous because men are so angry and they're lashing out, and they're copying what they hear high value men say, which is, you should appreciate that you have me, no matter how much money I have or whatever. You have a man, he loves you, you should appreciate that, and not be so quick to divorce a man because he doesn't have this or that, or because he made this mistake or that mistake. Totally agree. But let's not pretend that every man out here is a catch. No. We do have horrible, horrible, horrible men out here. We have to acknowledge also the issue with men feeling like American women are too masculine. If you're going to bring that point out, which is a valid point, you have to address two things, or you have to include two things. One being that while the American woman has become ridiculously masculine in a lot of ways, the American man has become ridiculously feminine in a lot of ways. A lot of you guys out here thinking you're just gonna get you a foreign woman, quote unquote foreign woman, because they're more submissive. Those women are submissive to masculine men. I just want to remind you of that. Okay. The other thing to consider is women coming into the workforce, which you can say it's just because of women and feminism that women came into the workforce, but I tell you what, men benefited from it very much and were very quiet for a very long time about it because they enjoyed someone helping them pay bills. And it turned around to bite them in the you-know-what. Because in a woman outside of the house all day, just like you, working, meeting deadlines, having to protect herself, make sure nobody's hurting her, make sure nobody robs her, making sure, a woman has to be out in the streets working hard. She's going to be a hard woman. She's going to be hard-headed. She's going to be hard-hearted sometimes. It's a responsibility. And then on top of that, to have to be a mother bear, it's a tall order. And this is a way that women who signed up for it and pushed it and teach their daughters to be that way, yes, these women also bit off more than they could chew, signed up for something that they weren't really ready for. But in other countries, you tell a man that his wife is going to pay the bills, and he damn near come to tears. Like, shoot me now. Under no circumstances will a woman provide for me. It's just not going to happen. I know men who literally will choke if you pull out money to pay for a meal. Seriously. So you have to imagine a woman in a society like that. Of course she's going to be submissive. Of course she's going to be very quiet and listen to this man. She's going to appreciate him. So, things in America have just become so messy to the point where it's no return. Basically, it's about compatibility and common ground. because there are men who need their wife to work, want their wife to work, expect their wife to help. That's it, and that's the end. And whatever personality they get because of that, they're perfectly fine with that. Women that are, the opposite. They would prefer a woman to stay home. They would prefer a woman to depend on them. They would prefer a woman to focus on having the best and brightest kid that she can. And, they really want to be the breadwinner, and they really want to be the decision maker, and they really want to be, and that's fine too. His only dilemma would be to find a woman that he's compatible with. You don't have to change all of America. You don't have to change American women. You just have to align yourself with a woman that resonates with the values that you have, and those women exist. But you're not going to find her in a bar. You know what I mean? There are just as few men that know how to change a tire as there are women that know how to cook these days. Both genders have fallen off the cliff. Both genders are lacking and slacking. And, we have to come to a point where we stop pointing a finger at one another and looking for an escape route, is to get back to the idea that there's a God. Get the last, I don't know how many years that men have been bragging about women with money. Men will clown you because you don't have a nice car. Like, I don't know why the guys are not admitting that they've been acting like this for the past 10 or so years. Judging women by how much money they have. Accusing a woman of being a gold digger if she's submissive and expects you to pay for things. Like, you're talking out of both sides of your face, a lot of guys, and you don't really understand what you're doing. You don't know what you're asking for, and you don't know how to prepare yourself for what you really want, what your innate desire is in a female. You don't even know how to be the male counterpart for a female like that. And for a long time, men didn't appreciate submissive women in the West. That submits to God, you can't lose. If she submits to God, she will submit to you. Period. End story. You try to maneuver this an atheist type lifestyle, but you want a woman that has godly qualities. You may not know that's what that is, but it doesn't match. I love her because she got her own, and INDEP, she got her own car. All those things, those ideas that the woman is supposed to have all this money. Women are competing with guys now. Why do you think women feel like on the first date, they feel like they're going to get somewhere because they're listing how many degrees they have and how much money they make, and they own their own home and all that? This whole idea of a man feeling like, that's nothing. Those are not the things I want from you. I'm not interested in that. That's how a man is supposed to feel. But the modern man doesn't feel like that. The modern man has benefited from women working for a very long time. And instead of admitting that they helped create this monster that is the Western female, men are hiding behind, I didn't even want you guys to do that. I wanted you to stay home. No. You weren't saying that 10 years ago. Idea isn't to make women feel that they need to stay with a guy no matter what and choose the first guy that gives her a smile, or else it's not worthy of him, and all the whole kind of way that the things are kind of being woven here on social media recently. Don't get ahead of yourself, guys. Women still need to be careful of who they talk to. Women still need to look at guys that are walking up to them on the street and be careful. Like, it's dangerous to just guilt women into just saying yes, or a guy that acts nice, because you still have guys that are drug addicts, homosexuals, rapists, child molesters. These guys exist still. Countries where American men are dreaming of the women because they don't talk, and they don't and they don't cause any problems, and they don't raise their voice, and they appreciate you for providing for them and things like that. You have to be careful with that. Just it's rude and it's insulting to those women that you just assume that they're just going to be so submissive and deal with your American BS, because you got just as much American BS on your collar as the American woman, you know, and no express disdain for their women, and are upset that so many of the women in their country are uneducated and they can't really have a good conversation with them. They don't speak up for themselves. You know, he can command something from her, and he can get submission from her, but so could that guy, and so could that guy, and so could that guy. Like she's just kind of like there. Have no aspirations. I've heard they have no aspirations, they have no ambition, and things like that. So, you know, it's really about compatibility, and there's something good and there's something bad about every person, no matter where they are. I don't think that it's about finding something else. The idea that a woman that's not from the West is just going to submit to you and obey you and just love the crap that you put her through and not say anything when you drag her through the mud and all this kind of, first of all, something's wrong if that is your ideal. And a lot of guys, that is what it is. Oh, if I do this, she won't even leave me. Like, if that is the peak of what a good woman is to you, you need help. Okay? You need help. But not every guy's like that. Some guys just want a respectful woman that appreciates what he does, and she knows her role, and she's a good mom, and she, you know, satisfies him and everything, and doesn't challenge him in the ways he doesn't want to be challenged, and all those things, and that's perfectly fine. And if you have to go abroad to find that woman, that's great. That's amazing. If I were a man in the West, I don't think I would want a woman from here either. So I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. You know, you probably wouldn't be able to get me to pay you any attention in this country unless you were very heavily into Islam, specifically Islam, and you put God first. Other than that, I probably would go abroad as well myself. And as a Muslim, you know, if you frequent a mosque, you come to know people from a very great many countries. I think I've met someone from at least 75 to 80% of the countries on the planet. It's just kind of like that at the mosque. It's one of the beautiful things about Islam. It's, you know, and I'm going to tell you something right now. If you think that because foreign women tend to fit the mold of the role of the female better, think that a woman from these other countries will not or divorce you or hit you upside your head with a cast iron skillet if she finds you cheating, or that a woman out there can't use you or lie to you or cheat on you or manipulate you or trick you out of your money or something like that. If you really think that these things are not possible because a woman is from another country, woo, you in for something out of this world. Because at the end of the day, a woman is a woman is a woman is a woman. You hear me? And best bet is to understand that man is a creation of God and woman is a creation of God. And your behavior, no matter how society, your Western society, gives you a pass, if your behavior towards a woman is disrespectful or abusive or wretched, especially if you're doing it because you think you can, because she was raised a certain way, so it's easier to treat her bad. If I were you, I wouldn't give in to that urge. I would really control the desire to do that, because God protects his people, and that includes women. Women badly, and you know what treating women badly is, because you can imagine your mother, your sister, your daughter. Let's go with daughter. Imagine the things you wouldn't want a man to do to your daughter, okay? If you are treating women badly, no matter what country they're from, no matter what idea you've come up with why they deserve or should put up with your behavior, just know that you will have to pay the price for damaging one of God's creation. It's not a good idea. So instead of running away, instead of pointing a finger, it's like American men in the West are throwing haymakers at this point, just flailing, grasping at straws, desperate to find someone that will respect them and appreciate them. So, you know, I have empathy towards that, towards the man in the West plight. I'm siding with you guys, where you have to stop the same thing you're telling women. No one's responsible for your mental health. You have to get yourself together. You have to take accountability for your actions. You have to not hide behind the masses and look at your individual situation and pray to God and fix yourself. And the main way that a man or anyone is able to do that is with what? Self-discipline. Self-discipline is how men in the West will get respect back from the women. How do you find the strength to discipline yourself and not have a porn addiction and not waste time paying for OnlyFans and things like that when you could be working on a business and things like that? How do you build character where you can confidently know that you deserve the best of the best when it comes to a wife? How can you do that? By submitting yourself to God, by humbling yourself, by admitting your own faults, by understanding that God gives you discernment and gives you a handbook to live properly and have a respectful existence, a legacy that you can be proud of when you're gone. The way to do that, I'm making YouTube videos clowning women and bashing women. It's just not the answer. It's like, okay, we get it. Yes, men definitely should get proof of paternity before they pay child support. Absolutely. I believe we should go so far as to charge women who lie about paternity, and the charge should grow as time passes. If you don't find out until the child's 5 or 7, I think that the man that is missed out on his child's life should have the right to bring charges, civil charges against the woman. And I think that the man who was lied to should be able to bring charges against the woman. I mean, why not? Like, come on. You can't just ruin people's lives. You can't just destroy a man and just say, oops, my bad. It doesn't work. No, you can't. And, you know, women have to take accountability for the situations that they get themselves in as well. If you're a woman and you've had 4 relationships and all 4 relationships were abusive, all 4 men put his hands on you, that it's time to not be a victim. It's time to look in the mirror and it's time to be a big girl and ask yourself, why do I attract men that are abusive? Why do I keep finding myself with abusive men? Because it's not a coincidence. So typically for men and women, if you find yourself repeatedly with the same type of undesirable people who you say you don't like to deal with, you have to ask yourself, why? Why do these people keep finding me? There's something about your expectations of yourself. There's something about how you carry yourself. And either you are as low as they are in your behavior, or there's some trauma there. And, you know, you are subconsciously finding comfort in toxicity. And again, even if that's the case, that's still something that you have to address and you have to change within yourself. You can't just hide behind people on social media yelling and screaming into the camera and you can relate. And so you just ride the wave of that idea and that ideal. You have to find what your principles are and you have to stick to them. And, you know, not every man is hardworking and upstanding. Not every man is the high value man that they think they are when they watch these videos.